Yes. So now it has started. So now we saw a few topics like what is research and what are the steps in research and what exactly, I mean, how do you identify a research problem? What are the types of research? All these things. And then we saw another chapter. Should I even run the slides through quickly? We saw what is a research. How do you identify a research problem when we said what is research and all? How do you identify what exactly is a research problem, right? And then we said what are the sources of research problem. Just as I said real life, I gave you an example of real life research problem where you had to commute from Airoli to I think Mulund, right? When you had a job in Mulund, and how do you and you reside in Airoli, how do you commute there? You would first research on the distance between them, modes of transport available, and so many other things. Then we said there are other scholarly arenas also. And apart from that, you also said, when I said I'm going to choose this as a research problem, how will you evaluate this is actually a research problem or not? And then apart from that, any research problem should be supported by a literature. Literature मतलब इसके पहले किसी ने किया होगा या किसी ने नहीं किया होगा. So that should be first researched. And then we also said review of literatures are very, very helpful in identifying research problems. So we are going to see in the coming today's class what is review of literature. And said like sources of criticisms. Like some people say you've not researched on this, or this is somewhere something is actually missing. Then we start researching on them. Or somebody says these findings may not fit for a city like Mumbai. So again, we start researching on those. Then we said any kind of new ideas. Like, for example, I had been doing it this way. So let me try doing it this way. Again, you get some new idea. Like, for example, I had been commuting by train every day. So let me commute by taxi today and see how long it takes. So this is again, so and for historical context again, over the years people have been saying yes, this works for this crowd, this works for this crowd, etc. Now basically you will test it on your crowd, or you will say it doesn't work for my crowd, and you will give them why it doesn't work for your crowd, those kind of ideas. So these are some of the areas, and any research problem should have a significant impact. Why am I repeating? Because last class only four of you had turned up, and maybe like see, you miss a major chunk of it. That's what I feel. Any research problem should have a positive impact on the field that you are researching on. Like when I told you, you're trying to research on how to get to I mean Mulund from Airoli at as minimum time as possible. Then you were researching on the modes of transport, cost effectiveness, and traffic. And in case there is a rain, will there be a problem? All those things you were researching on. So now, when you say it has to be very significant, and whatever you research should be usable by all, should be generalizable, and it should be a timely problem. Like, for example, after metro comes, you say bus is the easiest way. You had started your research, say, 10 years back, and now you come up with findings. It is not going to help. So, you're going to have a timely research. Start now, finish it early. That is what we say. Then it has to be something novel, like, novel in the sense there has to be some new areas that you should throw light on. People would have not researched on how fast metro communicate, if assuming we have metro also. Metro is, and how cost effective is metro. So all these things people have not researched. So you are going to give a proper, a newer way of looking at it. It has to be very specific and clear. Like my question was very specific. How do you, what is the fastest and the most cost effective way of commuting from Airoli to Mulund? It was a very, very specific, and it was clear. Are you following, class? It is just a recap of what we did in the last class. Class, am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And plus, it has to be researchable. You cannot just say how to commute in Mumbai. That's not researchable. Be more specific, right? And it was not clear also when I said, how do you commute in Mumbai? From where to where, what time, etc. Has to be clearly specified. And again, basically, these are some features that a research problem should possess. Now, having seen this, we started with a topic called review of literature. Did we start or class? Did we start this topic? Okay. Anyways, we will start it. See, any research, you identify the type of research, you give a short gist of the research. We call it as abstract and research papers. We call it as an executive summary in your projects. You give a gist of what you are going to do, what is the area, etc. And then you will write an introduction about your study. Then the next thing you are going to, because after identifying the research problem, one sometimes even your review of literature is a research problem. Okay, it's a source of research problem. So when I start with an introduction, basically, after I introduce my area, like for example, I told you, let's take an example of a typical research problem. Do you want to suggest? Do you want to suggest a typical research problem, class? Do you want to suggest a typical research problem to me? Can we conduct a small research on uh, preferred investment mutual fund as a preferred investment avenue among middle class people or middle income groups? Can we do it this way? Mutual fund as a preferred investment avenue among middle income groups. Okay, we will start with this. Supposing I'm going to research, say, in people residing in a particular area in Chembur. Okay, if I've chosen this. Class, are you there? Understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
So now,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
okay, thanks a lot. So I'm going to say this is my problem that I have identified, research problem that I have identified. Let us see if it is specific, whatever I told you, like whatever characteristics. Is it clear? Is the problem, research problem, clear to you? Like, for example, I said mutual fund as a preferred investment avenue among the middle income group people residing in Chembur. Okay? So this is a very clear topic and it has to be researchable because I'm very specific here about the investment avenue, about the area of study, about what am I going to do with mutual fund as it is going to be here acting as investment avenue and plus among whom it is among middle income group, correct? So I'm going to start researching on it. So I'm going to review literatures. इसके मतलब है reviewing literature का typically मतलब studies or researches that have been done in the past. बहुत सारे लोगों ने research papers लिखे होंगे. I think I showed you what a research paper looks like also, right? In one of my classes. तो रिसर्च पेपर में रिसर्च पेपर दिए होंगे, थीसिस बनाए होंगे या आपके प्रोजेक्ट्स बनाए होंगे. तो ये सब जब बनाते हैं थोड़ा बहुत रिसर्च कंडक्ट करते हैं. तो उनमें उन्होंने क्या किया है, पहले उनका टॉपिक क्या था, उन्होंने उसमें क्या 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 किया, रिसर्च किया इन द सेंस व्हाट मेथड्स डिड दे यूज a descriptive method? Did they use, remember we said descriptive research, quantitative research, exploratory research, etc. So उन्होंने कौन सा type of research में किया है? Then they also said, like for example, what are you what are their methods used? How did they collect the data? Did they use a questionnaire? Did they use a Google form, or did they use secondary sources of data? Did they already people ने opinion दिया हो, उसको उन्होंने sum up किया है? All these methods, what methods did they use? And then what was the finding of that research, and what did they conclude? समझ में आ रहा है? किसने ये रिसर्च किया था, क्या क्या टॉपिक था, कौन से साल में किया था, और what was the period, where is it published, or where, if it is not published, it's okay, it's an unpublished source. And then what did they actually research on, what methods they use, what techniques did they use, what type of research did they stick to, right? These are some of the areas that a review of literature will contain. You remember class, I showed you a research paper also?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So it is already known, and it is a phenomenon basically on any particular phenomenon, like preferred investment avenue. They will also study on those investment avenues, other investment avenues that people will prefer. And then actually main purpose क्या है इसका, जो already research किया है ना, उसके ऊपर थोड़ा light देना. Okay. See, the first thing when you are all given a project topic, what will you do? You will search the net. Correct? Net में डाल के देखोगे क्या क्या करूं, and उसमें से आपको जो researchable लग रहा है वो आप चुनोगे. This is how it generally works among students. When I tell you choose your project topic and give me in say a week's time, so you'll all be busy searching ye karu, then you will start talking to people, and then you will identify. Supposing you say equity investment or stock broking, so you will go and ask people. When you go and ask people, can I do on equity investment, can I do on bank fixed deposits, etc., and then people will tell you, you can do on this, you cannot do on this, it will not be feasible, ये सब बताएंगे आपको क्या क्या problem है, क्या क्या, or they will also give you some ideas. That is also a way of kind of collecting information about the research. It's a source of identifying a research problem. Then you will get a clarity, चलो मैं ऐसे करने वाला हूँ. तो आप देखोगे previous last year's projects देखते हो कि नहीं? Last year's projects, when you see, you will get an idea of, chalo, I can do on this, I cannot, I will not be able to do on this. So last year's project देख के आपको एक idea आता है कि चलो इसमें करूंगा मैं. And then you will see what their findings are, and you would want to apply it in your neighborhood. So when you try doing that, obviously the same kind of questions also you will be asking. Maybe वही questionnaire लेके आप अपने area में, findings could be the same, findings could be different. So you will highlight that. Say somebody had done it in Andheri, the findings were different from my findings that I have done in Chembur. समझ में आ रहा है? And somebody has done it in high income group, among high income group people, the findings differ. They prefer derivatives trading, and they prefer some kind of say investment in gold, whereas middle income group prefers investing in mutual funds due to cost issues. Cost of gold is very high, so middle income group people cannot afford that much. समझ में आ रहा है class?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
This is the kind of work that review of literature does. Basically, it's a laborious task. मतलब आपको बराबर पेपर आइडेंटिफाई करना है that pertains to your area. करते करते आदत हो जाएगा कि this some papers may not be related. Like for example, when I said mutual fund investment as a preferred avenue, I will take up equity का कोई research पहले जो किया है, right? And then I will see, चलो ये पढ़ के देखती हूँ इसका क्या findings आया है. So I will try and see how I can relate it to my study, right? And supposing minus on middle income group, I will take up a paper that has studied on lower income group people or lower middle income group people, and then I will say how will I relate this to my study. So ये थोड़ा जो है ना, थोड़ा बहुत आदत से आ जाता है. आप रिसर्च करते रहो and you start seeing everything in research angle. Obviously you will start thinking how can I relate this to my research. Class, are you following this? Are you following this?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is how you will be able to identify how a research can or cannot be, I mean, uh, cannot be kind of into your research uh, purview, right? That you have chosen. Supposing someone has just joined. So it's going to be a very very laborious task. मतलब काफी studies ढूंढ निकालने हैं आपको. If you are going to be doing a project for 100 marks, आपको minimum 50 studies पढ़ना है, not just summarizing and pasting it. वो summarize करके लिखना है, वो अलग बात है. But until you read it properly, because generally students what they do, they just copy paste or they just skip this part. So when you read this, past जब studies पढ़ते हो, you will even identify the gap. कौन से उन्होंने जो किया है, कौन सा छूट गया है. I said preferred mutual fund as a preferred investment avenue among Chembur people. Mutual fund preferred investment among Chembur residents. Among middle income group करके they have not studied. So I have chosen this topic. Okay. So now it is using your database reports. Basically, जो भी scholarly studies है, whoever does a research, whether it is UG student, whether it is PG student, we call them as a research scholar. वैसे PhD लोगों को बुलाते हैं, but any researcher is going to be a research scholar because research is actually a scholarly avenue of study. So when you do that, you are going to read papers that are published. Newspapers में अगर कुछ आता है, definitely you will get interested. Now when I'm doing this research, I'm going to see newspaper में कुछ आया है क्या उसके बारे में. Then अचानक that catches my eye क्योंकि my thought process is all in this topic only. जिस चीज में आपको ध्यान रहता है ना, उस चीज के बारे में कुछ भी छोटा सा भी दिखा, तो you will definitely want to read that. Are you following, class? Class, are you following?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I say whatever the scholarly article is about, if it is empirical मतलब data लेके उसको quantitative बना के उसके ऊपर काफी statistical tools लगा के hypothesis test करके उसको बोलते हैं empirical, right? Or if it is theoretical, people write people's unaffordability, I mean middle income groups unaffordability makes gold an unaffordable avenue for investment. And then any kind of critical analysis like mutual fund से बेहतर म्यूचुअल फंड में ज्यादा कॉस्ट जा रहा है. Somebody has researched and said, I mean उनके एक्सपेंडिचर है ना, TER, total expenditure of that particular mutual fund is very high. It is about 1%. That 1%, if you save, if you invest in equity, it's like somebody must have written, right? That 1% also you get, right? Summarize and any kind of other methods they use is basically, समझ में आ रहा है आपको? So in any way they publish their paper, you are going to read, summarize, and then add it to your study. It is going to be a part of your knowledge that you are going to share with people. Now, why is it important? See, it is important in all aspects. When I told you identifying a research problem, obviously I said it helped me identify that middle income groups के ऊपर किसी ने किया नहीं है, right? Mutual fund is a preferred investment avenue. ऐसे मैं बोलूं कहाँ पे? Nobody has, or many people have not done in Chembur among the middle income groups, people residing in Chennai, right? So it helps me identify a research problem and then develop it, and maybe even refine a research question. See, I told you, if it is a preferred investment avenue, among whom have they studied? Yes, लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा ना, इसके पहले लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा, उन्होंने किन किन के ऊपर पढ़ा है. They've just done a general study. They've done this in Colaba. That Colaba majorly, as far, I mean, to the best of our knowledge, lot of high income groups reside. Now let us try a suburb, harbor suburb, wherein people who are at upper and lower middle income group reside. So let me try the same study here. Do their findings still hold good on these people, right? And again, talking about orientation from what is known to not known. Like, for example, I said it's a preferred investment avenue among residents in Colaba. Say a particular society of people, society in the sense like a particular building society, रहता है ना, cooperative housing society, a huge society with 8-9 wings. Supposing that happens to be people who earn about at least say 8-9 lakhs a month. Okay, so they come under high income category. What about people who earn about less than 2 lakh per month? What is their preferred investment avenue? Are you following, class? I know people who earn about 10 lakh a month prefer mutual fund as an investment avenue, that too in a different part of the city. So what about this part? I want to ascertain. So I want to contribute to the knowledge. Does everybody prefer, or is there a particular income group that prefers this investment avenue? Have people studied about all income groups up? I mean, high, I mean, upper middle, lower middle, and low. Yes. Then I will see if something else is possible. Residents of all suburbs of Mumbai, is there a gap? Gap का मतलब है जो area untouched है वो area मैं touch करूंगी. Like for example, I said middle income के बारे में किसी ने पढ़ा नहीं है. That two people residing in Chembur, they've not studied. So there was a gap there. So I am going to identify this gap and I am going to fill it by contributing to the knowledge that is already existing. समझ में आ रहा है? I'm going to research on people residing in Chembur, and that too they should belong to middle income group category. Again, any unanswered questions about the subject or concept or problems like why do they prefer, and how often do they invest, what is the amount they invest, plus what is their income level. When I said middle income, what is their income level, etc. Right? And again, determination of a need. Like if I want to replicate earlier study, I can do that also with different sample sizes or different study settings. As I told you, same questionnaire can be used. That which was used for Colaba, I can use it for Chembur. Are you following, class? Colaba में जो use किया है ना, उसी को मैं Chembur में भी use कर सकती हूँ. And then I can do the same study. Now, when I say I will also identify some theoretical concepts, like for example, do you all understand what is diversification? Class? Do you understand what is diversification? I'm not receiving any response here. Are you able to understand diversification?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Say for example, they say diversification is the best way to avoid or minimize your loss. Let me put it this way. Or diversification helps you in risk aversion. Matlab, see, I invest in various types of assets. So all of us prefer having our investments in, say, savings deposit, FD, and then we say mutual funds, stocks, uh, real estate, etc. Right? Each of them have a level of risk, right? So there is one theory that diversifying your portfolio, right, helps you minimize your loss if there is a loss and maximize your profit. So supposing this is a kind of thing that I want to research. Is it really helping me? This concept is already there. This theory is already there. So can I try and then research on this? That is again another way of looking at it. Are you following? And if there is any
Yes, ma'am.
political intervention, thanks. Like for example, they bring in some new policies, any say for example, expense ratio बढ़ा दिया, okay? Then how will the people react to it? So this also needs to be seen. How will the people react if there is a an increase in expense ratio? Are they pulling out money out of their I mean, are their investments coming down, or do they want? They are looking out for new investment avenues, etc. Okay, and when you talk about that again, uh, we talk about hypothesis to be tested, which we will see in the next topic. Okay, next topic. So we develop what is a hypothesis. We already mentioned about this earlier. Okay, see, supposing I say if expense ratio is increased, I would people would want to switch over to another investment avenue wherein expense ratio is not much. They earn the maximum. This is my belief. So I will state this as a hypothesis. समझ में आ रहा है? मुझे लग रहा है, मुझे जो लग रहा है, मैं उसको hypothesis जैसे state करूंगी. So this is what is, I mean, it's a tentative statement. When I sit for a research, I take it in mind. Like for example, just to, I mean, deviate from the example to a newer one. Supposing I say, uh, people prefer Pantene, or women prefer Pantene shampoo for their hair as it makes it soft. So supposing they add some chemical, this intervention may want the public, like demand for Pantene shampoos have gone down due to the introduction of that particular chemical, for example. Then it means that I have this in mind, so I'm actually going to test, is it after the uh, introduction of that chemical, or even before people started switching over to a newer brand? If yes, what is the reason? समझ में आ रहा है क्लास?
Yes, ma'am.
तो मैं मेरे मन में जो लग रहा है ना, उसको मैं हाइपोथेसिस बनाऊंगी, एंड देन आई विल स्टार्ट वर्किंग ऑन दैट सो दैट आई गेट अ फोकस. क्या टेस्ट करूं? आई गेट अ फोकस हियर. What are the purposes of review of literature? Basically, you are going to convey, लोगों ने ये चीजें पढ़ी है already about investment avenues, preferred investment avenues, and this is what is their findings, and this is what they want to convey through their study, and this is the strength of it or weakness of the study. And again, what happens is, apart from that, mujhe to be, when I am reading the research, I need to understand ki this is what is going on in the investment field. So as a reader, I should have some basic idea of what is happening in the I mean, finance market. People prefer this avenue, and this has been the background of study करके एक देते हैं ना. After introduction, these studies have been conducted in the topic, and this is what is the finding, and there is some weakness in this, or this is what I also want to prove करके. And again, जब मुझे एक background मिल जाता है, आई एम काइंड ऑफ, व्हेन आई डू दैट, आई एम अपडेटेड. चलो, इतने लोग प्रेफर कर रहे हैं, लेट मी स्टडी ऑन दिस. और इतने लोग प्रेफर नहीं कर रहे हैं, लेट मी सी if actually they are preferring in Chembur. Ulabame they are not preferring, but maybe in Chembur they are preferring, right? That is a contradiction there. And again, see, any kind of investigating tools that I develop. for my research. And investigative tool matlab maybe a questionnaire or maybe an interview with the people why they do not want to. Like for example, for whole of Chembur must be preferring for middle income group people. Whole of Chembur must be preferring to invest here, but just one particular building which has about 57 residents do not want to invest. So it again helps me. I would want to बाकी लोगों को मैंने सर्वे किया था. मैंने जब देखा ये बिल्डिंग में अलग है, probably I would want to go there and then interview them. Why is it? Why are you not preferring this? Are you able to understand, class?
Yes, ma'am.
So again, thank you. Yeah, it provides me with the knowledge about what problems the previous researchers faced. Again, another angle of it. लोगों को पहले गूगल फॉर्म क्वेश्चनर नहीं था, फिजिकल क्वेश्चनर लेना पड़ा. So they had to travel from place to place. So timely research was not possible. But now it is possible for me. This is one area again I'm able to do. Like see, the entire data collection is going to say for 100 samples is going to take about say maximum 15 days. But for earlier crowd, they have chosen only 50 samples. But 50 samples के लिए उन्हें 3 महीना क्यों लगा? Physically, they had to travel from place to place. So that is again one more way of looking at it. I increase the sample size, I change the area, I change the tool that I use because Google Form is faster. So that is again another tool that I'm using. And again, any review literature, I will also show you what a review of literature looks like. Okay, just give me a second. I will show you that and then we'll continue with this. See, basically, this is the thing I showed you last time. Impact of socio-economic factors. Socio-economic matlab their income, their I mean expenditure size, and then economic I mean their gender, their household size, etc. Right? Consumption patterns. Like for example, when I say household consumption, somebody has already studied, right? And they said that household size and family income significantly impacted. So we are comparing the trends to rural Maharashtra here. Mine was on Maharashtra and this is a study on Tanzania. Did you see how it is related here? Somewhere in Tanzania somebody studied and it is getting related to rural Maharashtra here. Same way when you see, this is called as reviewing literature. Past studies को हम कैसे relate करते हैं? समझ में आ रहा है class?
Yes, ma'am.
ये सब ऑलरेडी लोगों ने रिसर्च किया है, उसके हिसाब से हम करेंगे. लाइक ऑलरेडी पीपल हैव स्टडीड like how to commute from Airoli to Mulund. Now let me try out metro. Another angle of it, metro has come up. So let me see how. Can I switch over the tab to our this thing slides? Do you want to? Did you see it?
Yes.
Did you understand how it was related to the current research?
Yes, ma'am. You can switch definitely.
Thanks. So you need to actually relate any problem, right? Relate any problem that you have. Like for example, whatever if you have chosen a research problem, इसके पहले लोगों ने कैसे क्या किया है ये एरिया में, और जब ये एरिया में लोगों ने क्या किया है उसको आप अपने रिसर्च के साथ रिलेट करोगे. सिमिलर रिसर्च, रिलेटेबल रिसर्च, वही आप पढ़ोगे. दैट इज व्हाई वी सेड इट्स अ लेबोरियस टास्क. यू नीड टू आइडेंटिफाई रिलेटेबल रिसर्च and then you need to relate it, right? So therefore how you relate it, where you relate it, again is your way of experience से आता है. आपको समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, ma'am.
I gave you an activity before we wound up on I think Wednesday. I told each of you like you will identify one research problem and then you will share. One of them shared with me and we discussed that. I don't know if you understood. because the next class only 4 or 5 students had come. So I would suggest again you do that activity. Identify one. आपको वैसे भी next year project होगा, right? So you can start slowly, do a proper research project. भले एक छोटा सा basic research हो, right? You know, I'm always there and your teachers are always there. See, even if we finish with the class, when we meet, we may meet for 4 or 5 sessions maximum, right? In person. But then we can always be in constant touch. You can always ask me like, you know, how can this be done? Or any broad area you choose also, convert it to a research problem. We are always there to help each other. Whether I'm continuing here, I'm not continuing, you can always approach me. Or even your teachers are that way very, you know, open to help you. Class, are you understanding? ये सब प्रैक्टिस से आता है. मैं आपको बोलती हूँ खाना बनाने का, दाल डालो, चावल डालो. Unless you make it, I can give you hundreds of recipes. जब आप खुद बनाने जाओगे तभी आपको समझ में आएगा, आदत आएगी बनाने की. You may make mistakes 100 times. 101th time it has to come out right. You keep practice with interest. Class, are you able to understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when we see, you are going to relate the research in some way or the other, right? And we are going to see how to interpret and throw light on whatever gaps. Like previous gap was on lower income group people. Now, I have to find out कि middle income group में क्यों नहीं किया, high income group में किया है, low income group में किया है, upper and lower middle income में किसी ने किया नहीं है. So I need to find out and do this research on them. Plus, if there is any conflict, they say that lower income group people in Kolaba do not prefer mutual fund. But in Chembur, they prefer. Why? Why is it happening that way? Right? So, this kind of a conflict, मतलब देखो अभी उनका फाइंडिंग और मेरे फाइंडिंग में कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है, या मैंने ही वो कोलाबा में किया है. Say for example, the same Kolaba which was researched by somebody else, I have done now. And they say that lower income group people do not prefer investing in mutual funds. But I find they are preferring to invest in mutual funds. Then I will say that what is actually happening? Why is that finding differing from mine? Probably at that time they were not, so very, so well aware of the investment revenue, the risks prevailing, the returns that they get. But now I can give an awareness, and or they have got an awareness and they are going in for this investment revenue, right? And again, when you identify prior scholarship, मतलब see basically किसी और ने भी कर लिया है, why should I do the same thing? देखो मेरा ना results अलग आ रहा है, ना techniques अलग है, so why should I again go and do the study in Kolaba itself? समझ में आ रहा है? So duplication is again avoided. Same finding आ रहा है, same method use कर रही हूँ, same area पे कर रही हूँ, same people पे कर रही हूँ. Why should I do that? It's again, I'm going to say the same thing. So I'm going to do it in an area where there has been no research or less amount of research. Are you following? Review of literature मतलब past studies. Past studies को हमें क्यों करना है, ये हम देख रहे हैं अभी. And again, when you talk about it, each research is going to be placed in the context of how it has contributed. Like for example, हर research ये area में किया है ना, वो सब हम एक साथ रखते हैं. How much of understanding it has added to that particular field, right? And एक एक का relationship हम describe कर रहे हैं. Like for example, तांजानिया का study को rural महाराष्ट्र में हमने relate किया था. Then there was a study on how health was taken care of in so many places, right? Or some had to undergo out of pocket expenses. Some had already insured. So how did they manage their health expenditure during COVID, right? So we see different areas already people have studied. Some must have said that they had to incur extra expenditure. Some must have said insurance are a way took care of them when they actually did not have an income. So all these things are adding to different angles आपको मिलते हैं पढ़ने को. समझ में आ रहा है? You get different area understanding क्योंकि आप पढ़ते हो एक एंगल से पर आपको काफी एंगल से सोचने का समझने का प्रॉब्लम को मिलता है एंड उससे आप भी कुछ और सोच सकते हो, आप भी कुछ और रिसर्च कर सकते हो. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Please be open enough to tell me if it is very difficult or if you don't understand something. Please let me know. And again, when you talk about previous studies के conflicts भी अच्छा yeah. So what happens is you are able to find out where people got data from. वो भी आप देखते हो data कहाँ से मिलेगा. Like when you get a project on hand, you are all trying to see what will I do. तो आप क्या करते हो? पहले क्या क्या topics है? उनको data कहाँ से उन्होंने लिया, right? And what kind of concepts did they have? Did they use? What did they actually try and do? आप ब्लैक बुक का जब बनाने जाते हो आप क्या करते हो? सीधा जाते हो डिपार्टमेंट में, यू आस्क फॉर प्रीवियस years ब्लैक बुक्स, करेक्ट? डू यू डू दैट और विल यू बी डूइंग दैट? लास्ट ईयर के टॉपिक्स पहले छान मारोगे वो ब्लैक बुक से, फिर नेट से निकालोगे. देन यू विल सी हाउ हैज ही कलेक्टेड द डेटा, कहाँ से निकाला, राइट? So all these things you get a kind of clarity because these are all the contributions of previous researchers. And you will develop alternative research projects. Like someone said, why people are migrating from AI to cloud. I think this was a topic that was discussed, right? And then पिछले बार देखा तो AI के बारे में ज़्यादा नहीं था. But now you would want to know how popular is it. Right? Now you would want to know how often do people use it. In fact, आपके project topics ही कोई वहां से निकालोगे, right? And you will develop alternative research projects, like how a research project is related. Like for example, Tanzania में किया था. So I tried seeing how it works in rural Maharashtra. Are the findings same or are they different? Right? Say for example, I identify a place where people's income levels are similar to Tanzania. You know, it's a very poverty-stricken country, right? So वहाँ के जो लोगों का income है और one particular area in Maharashtra, if there in rural Maharashtra, if their income levels are also similar, in what way are they managing the crisis similarly or differently? समझ में आ रहा है class?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what are the sources you may get from two, primary as well as secondary? What is primary? What is primary?
The initial sources.
First-hand sources, very good. Initial or first-hand sources. And secondary is already people have studied, published, and then you are getting it from them. Again, see who has developed a theory, basically, or who has conducted a research, right? When he describes the investigation, how he did it, and how he has studied, then we call it as a primary source. Like, for example, you come and ask me, मैम मुझे स्टूडेंट्स के परफॉर्मेंस में आपने कैसे रिसर्च किया था, आपको कैसे पता चला कि हमारे स्टूडेंट्स आर above average performers? Then I will tell you what I did was I collected the database from your college mark sheets, their 12th mark sheet, their current mark sheet, UG mark sheet, and then I made an analysis. Plus, I also interviewed the students, etc. समझ में आ रहा है? So I have done a research, and I'm describing that to you. That gives an idea into you also. Like next time I do, I will be sticking on to the same method or I will differ from the method that is used. Maybe because you feel that itna magajmari kiya aapne. Best is you could have taken the college database, you found out their performance, performance in the PG first and second year, and all those things. You can give me another suggestion, or you can think of that line to research upon, right? Again, any credible literature uses primary resources majorly. Usually, these are all published. पब्लिश जब करते हो ना, वो पहले बार आपका ओरिजिनल रिसर्च रहता है. जो भी रिसर्च आप पब्लिश करते हो, आप you publish only the first, or what do you say, original research work. Original research work you would not want to duplicate on already done findings. समझ में आ रहा है? It has its own uniqueness. That's what I would say. Secondary sources, again, like see somebody else has prepared, मैं उनका review of literature ले रही हूँ, and then I try and compare, right? It may not be as reliable as primary ones. Are you following? These are some of the sources where, just 1 second, please. Just give me 1 second. I'm very sorry. Yeah. These are some of the sources where you get your review of literature from. Electronic database, you see something has been developed like that day. How did you give me a the same example, like how people have, is that student there who spoke about this, how people move from artificial intelligence to cloud computing or something like that? Is that student there, class? And I said find out some researchable problems, he gave me this example. So all these newspapers में आपने पढ़ा होगा कि people are now using artificial intelligence के बदले they are using cloud. So you see various articles, and then you come across news that they say this is more convenient, etc. So magazines, newspapers, then any kind of electronic database like your internet, and books also have studied, or journals, conference papers, people present in the conferences, and then thesis. Thesis is a dissertation that you submit. Even you will be submitting a thesis. Though it is called as project, it is an original research work. So take interest and do. That is my suggestion. And then any kind of encyclopedia, dictionary, or research reports. So wherever you find previous studies about this or any relatable field, that is a source from where you get your review of literature. Any doubts so far? Class?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
That's good.
So electronic sources are like computer assisted literature search. Like you can Google में आता है आपको literature reviews relating to, you can search, but then it is again basically not advisable. I would suggest you may choose the study, and then you may there is something called as Google Scholar also. That is also very, very helpful at times. Google Scholar may you can type in the study name or broad area, and then you will get there, right? Like for example, see, do you see this here? Studies pertaining to consumption expenditure during Supposing I give a Google search here. See, I do get a lot of papers here. You see here, these are some of the published papers. Can you see here? These are some of the research articles that they have published. Like there is a review of literature, right? And the research gap is mentioned here, correct? Class, do you see those words that we were discussing about? I know it is too early, but some of the words that we were going on talking about has been here, are here. These are all previous studies just to understand the background and then you will know, right? For anything, you need to understand the background. This is one of the electronic source. Now, again, see, it says search engines. You can always get like your, all these are some of the search that you use. Are you following class?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, all these are again very popular review of literature. This thing. Some online, most of them are published online. So there is, I mean, of late things have been made very easy. Plus, apart from that, you can use already submitted projects. आपके seniors ने project submit किए होंगे, या there could be MPhil researchers, PhD dissertations that have been submitted. All these things also can be used. Their studies you are summarizing as to what they have done. You will not replicate the same study, but you will summarize, you will find out their findings, what methods they use, and how they have used that. How can you relate it to your study? That is what is more important than reading all these. I mean, you can't read them mechanically. You have to think from your angle, what you are studying. Okay. Like, for example, you have research reports, unpublished dissertations and theses. All these are the sources of review of literature. Any doubts so far?
Just one question came into my
Yeah.
mind, that what if I want to search that if any PhD holder or any teachers are conducting any research in this Mumbai University, so how I can find them, that if any ongoing research is already going on, and
On
if
what?
I can
Yeah.
get.
So you'll need to specify ongoing research. If it is not published, you will not get
Let,
it. Right?
let's suppose it's all about psychology. I have no domain on psychology, but I want to research on it. But I want to see that if any teacher or anyone is any university is doing any research on
They
this
will
or
be
any
doing, but
res-
then see, you need to, any ongoing research will not be published, right? Unless it is completed, or at least a part of it is completed, they want to publish it as a paper, research article. Then this was a research article that I showed you now. This one was
Mhm.
a research article. The research scholar may even be doing a PhD. We don't know, right? So this anything that is made public is available. Ongoing, though, they will not publish it.
Okay.
Psychology में होता रहेगा, but you don't know, right? So that
If
is
they
how.
can notify somewhere that this ongoing research is going on somewhere in website or something, if you have any idea on that.
There is something called as working paper. Working paper
Mhm.
matlab the research is ongoing. So they will publish that part of it and they will say it is a working paper. We are still on with the research. We call it as a working paper. You
Okay.
can search for working papers in whatever psychology. Maybe it is a very vast field, right?
Mhm.
So maybe you can write uh, working papers in OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, right? You can check. So, I mean, if there are published articles, they will give you, else they will not. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Any
And
doubt?
one more thing,
Yeah.
that when we present our conclusion,
Hmm.
so are we going to put any solution, or we are just going to point out an opinion based on the data we have collected?
you can write recommendations. Okay, recommendations or suggestions. But we will discuss when we come to that. But actually, I'm telling you still, like, you can conclude. You can write summary and conclusion, summarize the findings and conclude, and you can write recommendations or suggestions if you want.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else? Anybody else has something? I hope I answered your
Hello.
questions. Deepak,
Ma'am, what is
hey, just a
ma'am,
second,
what is null hypothesis?
Shilpa. Deepak, have I answered all your questions?
Yes, ma'am. I have to just go through more on working papers.
Right.
Rest, I got your answer.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Deepak, please tell me. Shilpa, tell me. Yeah.
Ma'am, what is that null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis?
See, there are two types of hypothesis. Okay. So, in null hypothesis, we say, there is no significant difference between the spending pattern before and after investment. Whereas alternate hypothesis is completely the opposite of that. There is a significant difference in the spending after investment, right? So these two are completely opposite statements. Null hypothesis, generally what I believe to be what the researcher is focused on finding out. Okay, so he states that as a null hypothesis, it is basically a negative statement. When we learn hypothesis, I would suggest we can even start a small research as we proceed, like how we identified a research problem, right? From there on, we can take up, gradually move on step by step. See, null and hypothesis are two hypotheses which is mandatory. I mean, it is not compulsory in research, but it gives you a focus. So all of us, almost all of us use hypothesis. And hypothesis may, when I say null hypothesis, it's a negative statement. And it is basically an outcome of what I am going to be focusing on in my research, whatever is my objective. Like, for example, I say any household, if it is going to be, say, for example, women dominated households spend a lot. Okay. So now when I say this is what is my objective. I'm going to make this as my objective. I'm going to see has gender has any connection with the household expenditure, household monthly expenditure. So what I will do here is I will frame a null hypothesis saying that gender has no association with the expenditure of the household. This is my null hypothesis. Make a note of it. It's a negative statement. Do you see that captions coming here on your screen? Do you get that captions as I speak? Shilpa?
Yes, ma'am.
So the null hypothesis में अगर आपने देखा होता तो मैंने एक negative statement दिया. Gender has no association. Correct? Whereas my alternate will be exactly opposite. Gender has an association with the monthly household spending. I would say significant association. Technical term we use there is significant association, significant difference. समझ में आ रहा है? And when we, empirically prove using statistical tools on the data, etc., we will get an idea. समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is what it is. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions or any other thing that you would want to share? Class? Can we stop
We should
here?
be good, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. So for today, we will stop here. And in the next class, we will see about research design. I will share the materials as well as the recording. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day.